Welcome to the Kino Cave and Merry Christmas to you all from yours truly, Mr. Kino. I hope you all have a safe and happy holiday. And I'm going to be real with you guys. I'm probably only going to get this one video out today because I do work in the delivery service industry. There's just no time or energy left in me to make videos. But I got this one out to you guys because I love you all so much, alright? The channel's been doing it's been going up. All right, the views are going up, the subscriber count is going up, and for that I am very grateful. Thank you all. So, without further ado, let's talk Costuming Chronicles, the era of the Grinch. The Grinch is one of my favorite Christmas stories of all time. I love a redemption story. My all-time favorite Christmas story is A Christmas Carol, and The Grinch is not that far behind it. I love the story of The Grinch. I love the story of someone who is very cynical and cold about the idea of Christmas, and he comes around to the true meaning of the holiday and why it matters so much. And of course, this doesn't apply just with Christmas, it can apply to any kind of a holiday, really, okay? Most holidays, they're used by big companies to, create like this commercialization. But when you get down to the true roots of it, it's all about togetherness and having fun and being with those you love and those who love you. So I thought I'd get into the design of the Grinch throughout media since its inception back in the 50s by Dr. Seuss. And a rare turn for me, I am going to be getting into some animated stuff because there's only one live action Grinch movie officially. I know there's a horror movie called The Mean One or something like that. I'm not going to be covering that one today. Only officially released The Grinch movies. So, without further ado, let's get into the design inspiration for the Grinch in the original book, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, from 1957, written and illustrated by Ted Geisel, aka Dr. Seuss. So the character actually first debuted in a 1955 poem called The Hubbub and the Grinch. And the Grinch is supposedly a self-portrait of Dr. Seuss. One December 26, Dr. Seuss looked in a mirror and felt that he looked very Grinchish, to use his words. And so he drew how he looked and created the character of the Grinch from there. And this is due to a lot of reasons. He wasn't just being a Grinch or being a Scrooge. His wife, unfortunately, had a lot of health problems at the time. It was very unfortunate for him. And also, he was growing increasingly cynical of the commercialization of Christmas. And he wanted to rediscover his love for the holiday, I suppose, by tackling the story of the Grinch. And that is kind of it for the design. There's not a ton of info here. Most of the info relates to the 2000 movie, which has glorious behind the scenes. Which, if you watched my Spider-Man video, I need me some behind the scenes, proper behind the scenes stuff back in movies. And thankfully, The Grinch had plenty to go with it. And that is kind of it for the book Grinch. But I think it is very interesting that it's a self-portrait. I think that's probably what makes the character so relatable to so many people. Not just kids, but adults, especially adults, in fact. I find myself growing, cynical over Christmas a lot. I'm surrounded by very cynical people about Christmas, who don't really see the meaning or the love for the holiday that I do. For Christ's sakes, I'm wearing a Grinch jumper. You can't see. I'm wearing a Grinch jumper right now and a Christmas hat, and everyone around me is just like, shit, it's Christmas in 2 weeks. That's what I'm recording, by the way. It's exactly 3 weeks, actually, to Christmas. So yeah, being surrounded by a lot of very cynical people, it can create a cynical air, and it can make me feel sad about the holiday. And of course, you hear about so many people going through such hard times around Christmas time that it's hard not to get, sad and upset by it, which is okay as well. You're allowed to be sad at Christmas. No one's forcing you to be happy. No one should expect you to be happy at Christmas time. But to me, Christmas is always about just sharing time with your loved ones and, exchanging a few presents here and there when you can. Now, moving on to the TV special from 1966. I absolutely love this TV special. It makes me tear up every time at the end. I think it's just wonderfully animated. It's incredible. It's a fantastic half hour of animation. I absolutely love it. And unfortunately, I couldn't find a whole lot of information on this. So I'll quickly call out the director and animators. It was directed by Chuck Jones and animated by Ken Harris, Abe Levitow, Ben Washam, and Dick Thompson. So they're like they're the real team of animators behind it. And what an amazing job that they did. One interesting fact is that Dr. Seuss was heavily involved in the creating of this animated short or animated special or whatever you want to call it. And him and Chuck Jones both agreed that the color of the Grinch should be green. For those of you who don't know, the Grinch, the original book, is in black and white. So, Seuss never really picked a color for the character. And when it came to making an animated special, you need it to be colorful, and it's incredibly colorful and beautiful. And so they decided that the Grinch should be green, which makes a lot of sense. To be honest, green is, color of jealousy, it's a color of kind of feeling sick and that kind of thing. It makes a lot of sense for the Grinch to be green. And that is it for the 1966 TV special. What can I say? It's absolutely wonderful. The animation lends itself to the Grinch so well. The expressions that he does, that big creepy smile that he does, absolutely incredible. I love this special so much, and I watch it every single Christmas after I put up the tree. That is like our little tradition. We stick the tree up, and then we watch the Grinch animated special. Now, moving on to How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the film from 2000, directed by Ron Howard and starring Jim Carrey and Taylor Momsen. So I'm just going to be getting into the creation of the makeup for the Grinch today and some on the bodysuit and that, and just a few little anecdotes from the actor and makeup artist, which is a lot of fun actually. I had a lot of fun going through all the behind the scenes stuff from this movie. It seemed like a wild ride, to be honest, recording this movie and doing the makeup process for it. Just quickly on the movie itself, I love it. It's obviously got its 25th anniversary this year, and I loved it as a kid. I thought it was hilarious. I watched it over and over again. Then I went through that cynical, teenage years where I'm like, oh, it's silly, it's stupid, whatever. And now I genuinely think that The Grinch from 2000 is kind of amazing in a lot of ways. Like, it's kind of a secret, underrated kind of movie, I don't know, I know that obviously the love for the Grinch, the 2000 Grinch, has come back around because, everything is, circles back around and stuff that may have been considered bad at the time, and gets shed a new light and all that kind of thing, prequelitis, I guess you call it, when it comes to, Star Wars. Some movies don't deserve that kind of look back, but I think that The Grinch from 2000 absolutely does. I think it's genuinely good in a lot of ways. Some of it hasn't aged amazingly, but, I think it's really good for kids, and I think it's also really funny for adults. There's a lot of adult jokes in it that, is going to go straight over kids' heads. I think the performances are all incredible, and I find myself loving it more every year. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to love in the 2000 Grinch movie. But let's talk about the makeup process, just one of the reasons to love it. So the legendary Rick Baker designed the look of the Grinch as worn by Jim Carrey. This guy is a legend, alright? Just check out these pictures on to my left. This guy has got some incredible makeup works under his belt. He's one of the best. Yeah, no brainer. Of course, the makeup for this movie is going to be amazing. And Baker talks a lot in the behind the scenes about, his process with making the makeup. He didn't want to limit Carrey's face. Like, Jim Carrey is basically known for having a rubber face and being able to be a human cartoon, basically. If you look at, The Mask, even, Ace Ventura and stuff like that, Jim Carrey does things with his face that I just can't believe. So Baker, it was very important for him to not limit that, to let that shine through as much as possible. So he would do makeup tests on himself before taking them to Carrey, because obviously, as we'll get to, getting makeup applied that heavily is a laborious and stressful and long process. And Baker didn't want to put Carrie through any of that unless he absolutely had to, so he did a lot of makeup tests on himself first, so then he would take the ones that worked to Carrie. They ended up going through about a half a dozen makeup tests with Jim Carrey before they settled on the final look. Rick Baker described the process as being torture for Jim Carrey. The process started out at about 8 hours a day and winded up being about 2 to 2.5 hours by the end. But Carrey had to have this makeup applied every single day for 92 days. That is pretty crazy. I mean, 92 days is a pretty average shoot time for a movie, but he has to be put in that makeup every single day. That is a lot of stress and a lot of time as well. Imagine going through 8 hours of makeup in the morning, having to sit there while people poke and prod at your face and paint it and all that, and then you have to go and do your job for the next 5 to 8 hours, depending on what has to get done that day. Absolutely insane. So the process of applying the makeup began by cleaning the skin, then applying a protective coating on Carrie's skin so that the makeup wouldn't negatively affect it or anything like that. You know, there's stories like Jonathan Rhys Davies in Lord of the Rings having a bad reaction to the makeup and all that kind of thing. So, you know, that protective coating is just to protect him a little bit. The appliances were then put on in pieces, like the head and the nose and that kind of thing. But, you know, there wasn't many of them because, again, Baker wanted Jim Carrey's actual face to be as present as possible. And then they would start mixing the paint. And the paint uses a lot of different colors, actually. You'd think, well, he's green, so we paint him green. But green skin, if you just paint somebody green, that doesn't look like skin. You know, green skin needs to look like, you know, skin still. Otherwise, it's not going to come across properly. So there's purples in there and there's pinks in there. If you look at human skin, it's not one color. It's, you know, mix of pinks and reds and yellows and all these different things going on in your body show in your skin. And so you have to do that even if someone has green skin. You have to still make it look like it's actual skin that's actually organic. So it's a surprisingly laborious process, mixing this paint for the makeup. So obviously they would have it mixed and then they would apply it to his face and then, you know, all that kind of thing. So now we get on to how Carrey felt about this makeup being applied to him every day for 92 days. He described it as being buried alive in this makeup and costume. The first time he applied it, this is a pretty famous story, but he went straight to his trailer and put his foot through the wall from the stress of having it applied for presumably 8 to 10 hours at that point. So supposedly, I'm not sure exactly how true this is, but I'd like to believe it. Jim Carrey went to the CIA to have training in order to sit through this makeup process. He had to learn how techniques on how to get through torture, distraction techniques, and all that kind of thing. One technique, which I found very funny, I mean, there's a few, punching your own leg to kind of just give yourself a bit of a reaction every once in a while, and doing all these things. I think, listening to music is, an obvious one as well. But one of them was smoking, but the Grinch can't just smoke, he's covered with fur. So you had to have a long cigarette holder, like the Penguin in the 60s Batman show, so that the green yak hair, yes, you heard me correctly, wouldn't catch fire. And I thought I'd end this one on a high note, because there's a lot of torture going on here relating to Tim Curry, what? Tim Curry, what? He's in another Christmas movie. I thought I'd end on a positive outcome of Jim Carrey's, hell that he went through. One day, in solidarity, to sort of put himself in the mind of his actors, Ron Howard got himself made up as the Grinch and spent the whole day directing in the Grinch makeup so that he could just, share the load, shall we say. Just take some of the pressure off of Carrey and just feel what the cast were feeling, because obviously the whole cast has to get made up like Who's, and while none of it was as bad as what the Grinch, Jim Carrey, had to go through, they still have to have these nose things applied, and they still have to have makeup put on and wigs and all that kind of thing. So it all still has to be done. So it's kind of nice that Ron Howard decided that he would also get the makeup done as the Grinch, just so he could feel what Carrey felt for a day. And that is it for the 2000s Grinch movie. lot of fun stuff on there. I quite like a lot of these stories, but big props to Jim Carrey, I guess, to give that good a performance and that funny a performance after going through all of that. That is incredible, and I think he pulled it off spectacularly well. And I think Rick Baker pulled off the makeup incredibly well also. The Who's also look really good, and sometimes it does look a little bit like prosthetics. I think less so with the Grinch because he's green, so you kind of have that disassociation. There's a bit of an uncanny valley situation going on with some of the Who's, I think, with those like big noses and big buck teeth. But all in all, I think that it still worked out really, really well, and I think Rick Baker has once again shown off how incredible his work is with the characters of the Grinch. So yes, big props to everyone involved. Now, I will end on the 2018 Grinch movie, just called The Grinch, I think, by Illumination. I'm gonna be real, I watched about 5 minutes of it and kind of just went, nah, not for me. Uh, it's probably a good enough movie on its own, like family members of mine who have kids, those kids like really enjoy it and stuff, so I guess it's good on that front. I don't know. It's probably good, but I just don't really have much interest in it, to be honest. Um, but I thought I'd get into the behind the scenes of it anyway, just because there's only one live action Grinch movie, and I talked about the other animated thing, so I guess I better talk about this one also. So the animation was done by the team at Illumination, and there's not a whole lot of information on this because we're in 2018 now. We're in the era of behind the scenes stuff not really mattering as much, especially for an animated feature. So the animators wanted to prioritize translating Dr. Seuss's 2D illustrations into 3D. That was kind of the modus operandi, that was the most important thing. Getting the feeling of Dr. Seuss in 3D form. And a lot of attention was given to the fur specifically and how it would react to the way the Grinch moved and to the environment as well. The way the fur kind of moves in the wind and the snow and that kind of thing, and how it reacts to his movements. So I think it was pulled off pretty well, from the clips that I saw, doing my research and stuff. I thought that the movie pulled off the animation really well. Illumination is very hit or miss when it comes to its animated features, but I think they pulled it off in this one. I think it works. So big ups to them, I guess. With all that said, that is my costuming chronicles for the Grinch, and I really hope you enjoyed this video, guys. It was a lot of fun to make, and I like getting in the Christmas spirit, wearing Christmas pajama pants, because yes, I just usually wear shorts or pajama pants because you never see my bottom half. One day I'll show it. I'm wearing Christmas pajama pants, a jumper, and a Christmas hat. It's fun to do. It's only the 4th of December yet, so the Christmas wave is coming. It's coming up, getting there. Doing my advent calendar, doing all that stuff, wrapping presents, praying that a certain present for a certain someone comes in the post soon. Anyway, I'm rambling. Thank you so much for watching the video, guys, and thank you so much for those of you who watched all year long. I know that it has been a tough year in terms of the channel. Took a couple of breaks. Hasn't been the most consistent thing. Hopefully consistency is the name of the game in 2026. I'm aiming for it. And I hope you all have a safe and happy Christmas. If you don't celebrate Christmas, happy holidays. Enjoy your holiday from school or work or whatever it is. I hope you all have a really great new year, guys. I'll be back in 2026 with more videos to come very soon. Guess I'll see you at the Christmas movies.